in the same way that we visualize categorical data, we want to be able to visualize quantitative data. So one way that we're going to do that is by producing a histogram. Now, all a histogram is it looks like a bar graph where the bars are kind of smushed together, but then really what it is doing is it allows us to visualize the variability for a single quantitative variable. Okay, so here are some examples. Okay, and so the first one on the very left, you can see it's expressing the relative frequency on the vertical axis for shark length. Okay, in feet, and all that's difference between the one on the left and then the red graph is that the number or the spacing is split up differently. That spacing is we use language of classes. The textbook uses classes. Excel will use bins in terms of the language, so I'm going to use those two bits of language interchangeably. So just be aware that when the textbook says classes, Excel says bins, and they are the same thing. It's just the different groupings of the quantitative variable that we make. Okay, and then the graph on the very right, you can see that the classes are rather large. It's actually 0 to 20, and then 20 to 40, etc. So, but in this way, with this grouping, you can see that the variability is actually kind of big because we have a tail or kind of less frequent observation all the way out in between 140 and 160. Okay, and so what we want to do is construct a histogram as an example for high school GPA for our Math 1161 class, or at least the respondents from it. Okay, and I'm just going to make this little caveat. I'm not giving any parameters around this, so we'll just construct kind of a basic one. If you need particular bins or classes, so like you need it to be from here to there, like you will encounter perhaps in your homework, you may want to watch the video 1.6. Okay, but nevertheless, here we go. So here's my demographic survey, and high school GPA is in column G for me. If you download a blank copy, it would be in column F. But I'm going to copy all the data, so select the first cell, Control Shift down. Oops. There we go. And I'm just going to copy that, Control C, into a new sheet. Oh, not that one. Let's make a new one. There we go. All right, and so with the data, now histograms, when we made the categorical distribution and ended up making the bar chart, right, we had to create the different observations and then count them up, right? With quantitative data, Excel can actually handle that a little bit more easily. So if you just highlight the data and go into Insert and then that recommended chart option, okay, if you go into all charts from there, there is an option for a histogram. Look at that. So, and then just click to insert it in. Here we go. So then we can title this. Yeah, move it. Okay, fine. We can give this histogram for high school GPA among 1161 students as a title. Whoa, not that. There we go. And then I can add in the axis titles as well. Okay, we'll come back to this one. The vertical axis here, this one you can see by it's like 5, 10, 15. These are just frequencies. Okay, or counts if you want to give it that title. Okay, and then this other one, horizontal axis, would be GPA range. Okay, it doesn't tell you the precise GPA, so that's kind of why statisticians prefer these types of graphs, because it kind of hides some of the data. Okay, and so certainly you could do the data labels as well, and that would give you more precise. Okay, so there's 13 individuals in this GPA range for the high school GPA. All right, so great, we're done, right? Well, there's a few more things I can show you. If you double click on the bin, on those bins or those classes, it brings up axis options thing. So you can change the bin width. Say you need the bins to be, 0.25. Okay, there you go. And you get different groupings. Okay. There are instances where maybe looking at a specific number of bins would be more beneficial. So typically we use the rule of thumb, there should be square root of the number of observations we have. So if we have, 57 observations, that's close-ish to 8 or to 64, and the square root of that would be 8. So maybe 8 bins would allow us to see the data a little bit more interestingly, and sure, maybe. But yeah, you can play with all this, okay? So that's a histogram. And the easy way for a histogram. If you want to know the other way, watch the next video. Okay, but nevertheless, we did mention there was also the dot plot and stem and leaf. We're not going to focus on those. Okay, the other one we will touch on is the time plots. And simply put, a time plot is a plot of a variable over time. So the example here you can see it's looking at water salinity over certain days, and measures the salinity on each of those days. So the example that I have for that is it's called a weather anomaly. Weather anomaly, and so all we need to do is with this data as it's presented, you can see it's in years and then the anomaly category. I'm just interested in the anomaly value and how that changes over time. So select all the data and then go to insert, and if you go into recommended charts and then all charts, you can do a scatter plot, but that scatter plot is typically reserved for 2 variables. What I actually want to do is a line graph, okay? And if you want lines or lines with dots, surprise me, okay? I'm going to do lines with dots just for fun, or lines with markers. So here we go. The only thing again that you might want to change here, in addition to adding those chart titles, I would not include data labels because it is hella messy. I would include the horizontal, I would change the horizontal axis. And again, you do that by going into select data and then editing the horizontal axis labels. So you just need to select those range of axis, or those dates or years, I should say. Hit enter twice. Oops. Click OK twice, rather. And my graph disappeared. Just kidding, I found it. But when we go and finish this up, I'm just going to change the horizontal axis to year, and then this is the anomaly value, and it's said it's measured in degrees Celsius up at the top. Okay, and then I'm just going to say this is a time plot of anomaly since 1880 was the first year. Okay, so there we go. That's a time plot, a graph of a quantitative variable over time. Okay, so again, these are the 2 main types of graphs of quantitative variables we will study: histogram and time plot. And again, if you need to know how to do particular ranges in your histograms, I'm going to encourage you to watch this next video.